Hello learners, I am Professor Munish Kumar Bharadwaj and today we will discuss about health and safety for scaffold and scaffolding works. The content of this video is, first we will talk about scaffold, its definition, use and the types. Then I will discuss about health and safety issues and then IS codes related to scaffold safety. As far as the learning outcomes are concerned, after viewing this video, you will be able to explain what is scaffolding, what is its use and what are different types. Then what are the hazards associated with scaffolding works, and also you should be able to explain about the IS code specifications related to scaffolding works. What is scaffolding? While visiting a construction site, you may have noticed a mesh around the building made up of horizontal and vertical members on which workers climb up to work at higher levels of the building. These individual members are fastened and tied securely to each other to erect the scaffolding. This mass is referred as scaffolding. Now if we go about the exact definition of the scaffold, then scaffolding can be defined as a temporary structure used in building construction made up of platforms at intervals which are used to access higher levels of a building. These platforms are used as work surfaces or for storing materials or for climbing up. Scaffolds are used not just during construction of buildings, they can be used during maintenance as well as demolition process of a building. Once the construction work is over, the scaffolds are dismantled. Here you see a graphics of the scaffolds. Different parts are shown here. So this is a view of the scaffold, how it look like and what it is made up of. Now to look at closely about its components, here you see in this graphics numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the different components of the scaffold. Like number 1 is adjustable base plate. The number 2 component is base collar. Component number 3 is called as standard. Component number 4 is called as support ledger. These ledger may be of two shapes, basically U ledger or O ledger. Number 5 shows the O ledger. Then here you see the exploded view of adjustable base plate. In this graphics you see the other components of a scaffold. The component number 6 here shows you the guardrail. Component number 7 shows you end guardrail. Then component 8, which is a diagonal member, it is called as the diagonal brace. Component number 9, it is scaffolding deck. Component number 10 is toe board and component number 11 is called anchoring. Now let us understand what are these components basically. A standard or upright is a vertical or near vertical member used in the construction of a scaffold for transmitting the load to the foundation. Whereas ledger is a horizontal member which ties the standard at right angles and which may support putlogs and transoms. What are putlogs? Putlogs or borer is a scaffold member spanning from ledger to ledger or from ledger to standard to a building and upon which the platform rests. Then what is transom? transom is a member spanning across ledgers and standards to tie a scaffold transversely and which may also support a working platform. Then next member is brace, a member fixed diagonally across two or more members in a scaffold to afford stability. Then bracing. Bracing is a system of braces or ties that prevent distortion of a scaffold. Then next component is guardrail, a horizontal rail secured to uprights and erected along the exposed edges of scaffold to prevent workmen from falling. Then toe board. Toe board is a barrier placed along the edges of the scaffold platform and secured there to guard against the falling of material and equipment. Then raker. It is an inclined member fixed to a scaffold to ensure its stability. Then tie. Tie is a member used to tie a scaffold for a structure to prevent horizontal movement of the scaffold. Now, after introducing you to the different components of the scaffold, now let us know about the types of scaffold or classification of scaffold. Scaffold may be classified into different categories such as independent or double pole scaffold. Second is connected or single pole scaffold. Then tower scaffolds. Then cantilever or outrigger scaffold. Then suspended scaffold. Then mobile scaffolds. Let us understand these one by one. First, I take independent or double pole scaffold. As the name suggests, these scaffolds are stand-alone structures anchored to the ground using its own mechanism. It may be tied to the building or structure but does not take the support of the building. This kind of scaffolding consists of a framework of tubular members in horizontal and vertical directions connected to each other using coupling members. Here you see the independent or double pole scaffold. The vertical members are called uprights or standards and they are secured to the ground. The horizontal tubes are secured to these uprights and run in two directions, one 90° to the building and one running parallel to the face of the building. The ones running parallel to the face of the building are called ledgers and the members which run 90° to the building are called transoms. The platform of the scaffolding rests on these horizontal members, that is ledgers and transoms. Then next is connected or single pole or put log scaffolds. Single pole or put log scaffolds are also called bricklayers scaffold. In this type of scaffold, the weight rests partially on uprights and partially on the building under construction, which is typically at a bricklaying stage. Holes are left in the brickwork and transoms inserted into these gaps or the put logs, and the other side rest on the uprights. As they rest on the building under construction instead of freestanding on the ground, they are quite stable and resistant to the wind forces, etc. Here you see the picture of a single pole scaffold. As there is only a single row of uprights used, they are called as single pole scaffolds. The advantage of this scaffold is that lesser number of members are used in the scaffold. The single row of uprights are not secured to the ground in isolation one by one. Instead, a pair of uprights are supported by a single timber base called the sole board. The gap between the uprights is not more than 2 meters and they are set at a distance of 1.3 meter from the wall. This ensures that 5 boards can be placed on the transom. The transoms are connected on the inside of the uprights at a height of not more than 2 meters from the ground level or lesser as per the work demands. The putlogs and the transoms together carry the weight of the scaffold. The placement of the putlogs also follows certain thumb rules and is dependent on the thickness of the board or the platform placed on them. For a 30 mm thick board, the putlogs are placed at 1.5 meter center to center from each other. The portion of the putlogs which are placed inside the gaps of the brickwork are usually flattened and are inserted by at least 75 mm. There may be a chance of these putlogs getting displaced from the gaps in bricks during the course of construction. In order to avoid this displacement, bracing is provided at an angle of 45 degrees to the horizontal and running from the face of the building to the full height of the upright at every 30 meters. Now next is tower scaffolds. Tower scaffolds are freestanding structures used for work at height and used as alternatives for ladders. They are also called by the name access towers or a scaffold tower. Here we have an advantage over the ladders as these scaffolds can be used for work at heights which involves long duration and eliminates the risk of imbalance which the ladders are prone to. This is because unlike ladders, they are self-supporting and not leaning onto a wall or any other vertical support system. Here you see the tower scaffold. They consist of work platforms which help in a wider range of movement for the employee which a ladder cannot provide. For example, a painter can stand on the top of the platform and can place the paint cans, brushes and other accessories next to him on the platform. Tower scaffolds can be mobile or immobile, and when mobile, they have caster wheels attached to the bottom. So finally, we can say that the tower scaffolds provide all the functions of a ladder with additional provisions for stable working platforms, making it a better choice than a ladder. Next is cantilever or outrigger scaffold. Outrigger scaffold or cantilever scaffold shall mean a scaffold the platform of which is supported by a outrigger or thrust out projecting from the building, the inner ends of which are secured inside the building. Here you can see a cantilever scaffold or outrigger scaffold. The next is suspended scaffold. Suspended scaffold in its true meaning is not an scaffold, rather a facility to work in a hanging position or suspended position, just like for cleaning of the glass panes of a high-rise building. So it is suspended from the top with the help of cranes basically. So it is designed as a modular system for sturdy and repetitive uses. Mobile scaffold, as we discussed earlier, that it is a tower scaffold having caster or wheels at the base which provide it mobility. This type of scaffold can be moved from one place to another place because after completion of a work if we want to move the scaffold and we are using a fixed type, then we have to dismantle and again re-erect the scaffold at other place. So it saves time, that no dismantling or erection is required from time to time when you are working from one place to another place. Having the casters or wheels, it is movable, so you can move or shift this from one place to another place and you can save time. Then trestle or ghoda, basically it is used generally for interior works, for like painting or plastering, and it has a self-supporting framework of timber or metal on which a working platform is laid. Then is jhula or boatswain chair. Jhula shall mean a seat to support a workman in a sitting position, supported by rope sling attached to a suspension rope. Now let us talk about what are the different Indian standard codes, basically, which gives guidelines related to the scaffolding safety. So here we find 3 IS codes basically. First code is IS 3696 part 1. Title of this code is Indian Standard Safety Code for Scaffolds and Ladders, and part 1 of this code deals with the scaffolds. Then IS 2750 Indian Standard Specification for Steel Scaffolding. IS 40141, it is Code of Practice for Steel Tubular Scaffolding, and its part 1 contains the definitions and materials, and part 2 contains the safety provisions for scaffolding. Now the question arises, why scaffold safety is important? We know that scaffoldings are used to access elevated parts of the building which cannot be reached from the ground level, and working at elevated levels have the inherent risk of workers falling from the height. Persons falling from the height and resulting in death form the single largest cause of casualties in construction projects. Over 60% of construction related deaths are attributed to falling from heights. So that is why it is necessary to ensure the safety of the scaffolds. Now let us look at the hazards while working on the scaffolds. The different hazards while working on scaffolds may be listed as electrical hazards, fall hazards, and falling object hazards. What are electrical hazards and how we can ensure safety? The clearance between the scaffold equipment and the power lines is crucial to worker safety, because there may be a chances that where work is going on and scaffold is required, there power lines also there, and these power lines are in the open, then there may be a chances that our scaffolds, which is generally metallic, made of metals basically, so if these scaffolds come in contact with these power lines, so there may be a big accident because of the electrocution. So what we can do? There should be a proper clearance between the scaffold equipment and the power line. Clearances must be maintained when scaffolds are, first of all, when it is being erected, when it is being used, when this is being dismantled, any alteration is being done in the scaffold or movable, then when it is moved. So before work starts, the utility company, means the power supply company, or electrical system operator can either de-energize the lines or relocate them or install protective coverings to prevent accidental contact with the lines. Then next is very important hazard is fall hazard. So what we can do for fall protection? First of all, let us know how this fall hazard occur. There may be failure of scaffolds, ladders or the working platforms. Also, there may be a case of fall from scaffold, ladder or the working platforms. So, through these two ways, there may be a fall hazard. So, for fall protection, what we can do, each employee on the scaffold more than 2 meters above a lower level must be protected from falling to that lower level. Two types of fall protection are used for safety of workers. One is personal fall arrest system, which we call as PFAS, and second is guardrail systems. These two systems we will explain in detail in another video. Different type of scaffolds require different types of fall protection. Protection from falling objects. The third category. Employees must be protected from falling hand tools, debris and other small objects. These are the three cases of falling objects from the height. So now let us discuss about the associated hazards with scaffolding. Number one is use of unsuitable or faulty material. Then second is inadequately supported scaffolding boards. The next is inadequate or irregular platform width. Then omission of guardrails or toe boards. Then failure to secure scaffold. Means we have to secure our scaffold that in any case there should not be any failure to our scaffold. Then it is very important that whenever you want any alteration in the scaffold, basically you should have proper and prior approval for that, because these scaffolds are designed basically keeping in view the loads and the forces coming over them, and any alteration without keeping in view the design aspects, basically it may be very dangerous. So in no case there should not be any alteration to the scaffold without approval basically. Otherwise it may turn into a big accident. Then unsecured ladder slip. Means we are using ladders also in the scaffolds from going one level to the another level, and if we have not secured these ladders properly, then these ladder may slip, and because of this ladder slip there may be a case of fall of a person which may result into deadly accident. So we should ensure to secure the ladders properly in the scaffold. Then misuse of couplers. Couplers are used to join the two members basically. If we have not properly tightened these couplers, then there may be a failure of the joint which may result into a deadly accident. So we should ensure that couplers are properly used. Then next is overloading of platforms and scaffolds. As I told you that the scaffold are designed keeping in view the load which is expected to come on the scaffold and its platforms. So if we are overloading these platforms and scaffold, then there may be a case of failure of platform or the whole of the scaffold. So we should avoid the situations of overloading of platforms and the scaffolds. Then fire due to welding or gas cutting in the scaffold. At some times what happens that we find that there some member is longer than our requirement. So what we do that we do the welding or the gas cutting. So while doing this gas cutting or welding cutting, basically we have to be very careful, otherwise because of the flames there may be a chances of the fire accident. Then falling objects I discussed earlier also. Then falling of person, as we discussed the different cases earlier, there may be failure of material, there may be failure of platform, there may be failure of scaffold, there may be a case because of that small width of platform. So because of these reasons, various reasons, there may be a case of fall of a person from a height, which is very dangerous. We should avoid the situations which may cause the fall of a person. Then there may be cases where the nails are protruding from the members or from the joints of the scaffold, and these protruding nails may injure the workers while they are moving from one level to other level or while working on the platform. And as these nails are metallic nails, basically injury due to these nails may result into a big accident. Then there may be cases of that workers may be hit by exposed parts of the scaffolds. So we have to be very careful that there should not be any chance of workers hit by the exposed part of the scaffold, otherwise the workers will get injury. Then there may be electrical lines which are live wires basically, and these overhead electrical lines, if some person or the scaffold come in contact with these overhead electrical lines, there may be electrocution to the workers basically, which may be very deadly. So we have to be careful that while erecting or while use of the scaffold, we have to take care of the overhead electrical lines. Then sinking of scaffolds. Sinking of scaffolds may result because of the loose soil on which the scaffold is standing. So before erecting our scaffold, we should first properly check the soil, whether it is a loose soil or a firm ground. So we have to make our scaffold on the firm ground so that our scaffold does not sink and result into some accident. Then there may be cases of hazards because of hot gases or some steam hazard. So we should be very careful and we should avoid such type of hazards. So we discussed different type of hazards basically which are associated with the scaffold. Now what are the safety aspects? The safety aspects to be used are uniform across all the materials and all type of scaffolds basically. First of all, the material should be able to bear the weight of the workers and the stress created due to their movement. then it should be stable, because if the scaffold itself is not stable, then certainly some accident is going to occur. Second thing is that it should be securely fastened and anchored. We should fasten and anchor the scaffolding and also the members of the scaffolding, because if there are chances of any movement in the different members of the scaffold, or the whole of the scaffold can move or sway basically, so this will not provide us a safe work environment. So because of this, we have to worry about that, and we should take all care of such type of situations. So in this video we discussed about that what is scaffolding, then what are different type of scaffolding, then why it is required, means what is the use of a scaffold, then what are different hazards which are associated with the scaffoldings, then what are the different guidelines basically given in the IS codes, means what are different IS codes that provide us guidelines to install and use the scaffold. So I hope you must have enjoyed this discussion. We will continue such discussions in the next video also.